All right, I made the choice and I'm gonna actually be renting out my house, and now it's time to figure out how hard in the world can this be? Welcome back to another Coffee with Coleman, where we love to discuss Washington, D.C., business, real estate, all that good stuff. My name is John Coleman, and I'm a real estate agent here in Washington, D.C. with the Jason Martin Group. If you enjoy watching me be a guinea pig and sharing random tidbits about real estate, then go ahead and hit the like button. And to stay more up to date on all the things I'm thinking and talking about, then consider subscribing, because then you'll get alerted when I release new videos. So in the last couple of videos, I've been making a progression. I randomly bought a new house, then explored whether I wanted to rent or sell my current house, and now here we are. And again, the spoiler is right there in the title of this video. I'm going to be becoming a landlord. Why did I go to this direction? Well, it really boiled down to 3 reasons. First is I live a life of real estate. I've always wanted an investment property, but have never had the wherewithal to actually take the plunge myself. And I've helped many clients find investment properties, but for some reason haven't been able to rip off that Band-Aid and jump off the starting block and dive straight in. That was a lot of analogies. But here we are. We're going headfirst into landlordship. And this is about as easy of a transition as possible because I've already got the buy-in from my wife. We're already here. We already have the house. Now it's just a matter of, can I rent it out? Does it make sense? And well, that goes into number 2. The numbers were kind of exciting. When I broke down the math in my last video, the idea of using our current house to build future wealth seemed in line with what our long-term goals could be. So that was helpful. And number 3 is the rental market feels pretty hot right now, while the sales market has slowed a little bit in comparison to what we've been dealing with for the past 2 years. And while I still think I could get a number I'm happy with, it's a little bit less exciting than I could have been, giving me a little bit more nudge to go the rental route as opposed to the selling route. So now what? Well, truthfully, I reached out to a colleague of mine after about 30 minutes of making the decision to rent and said, well, do you kind of want to just do this for me? This is your specialty. You know what you're doing. And I was only half kidding, and she squared me up and said, John, you need to go through this and you need to experience it. It will help you craft your own ability to help your clients in the future. You need to do this. And so with this pep talk, I was ready to roll. And the first thing I needed to do, and if you want to rent out your house in DC, you should get a basic business license, also known as a BBL. All of these resources are going to be available in a sheet that you can download in the description down below. So if you want all this information and a one-stop shop of what you need to be doing, go ahead, click that link, you'll be on your way. All the links are right there. So you can either do the steps yourself to get the BBL, or you can hire someone to draw up the paperwork and make it happen for you. I'm sort of doing a hybrid because I jumped out of the gates really fast and I knew I needed to get DCRA to give me approval, and well, I got ahead of myself and I went ahead and just scheduled them. So the first thing has happened, you need an inspection. And I'm sure in the past they used to send somebody to your house to actually conduct it. Well, now it's done via FaceTime. So like you walk around the house and you're kind of figuring out where you're going, and they want you to look at things, and you're giving them like essentially like a virtual tour, which I've been doing that a lot during the pandemic. So I felt like I was really good at giving virtual tours of houses, but they're really leading the charge, not me. So what they did is they had me turn on items and off. They ask you questions. You put your phone under your sink. You talk about your heating and cooling. You open up all your windows. You show them that there's screens in there. And it took the better part of probably like 20 minutes. And after all that, I failed. I did not pass my inspection. And it turns out that's not too uncommon. Many people do fail at their first time. And while it's not massive things, there are things that I needed to solve. And here are the things where I needed to improve my house. First was there's penetrations in the walls, like, you know, where like pipes and ducts and stuff go into walls. Well, we had a little bit of gapping, and they're afraid that rodents can get out there. Not that I have rodents, but they're afraid of the potential of rodents. And so they want you to fill those up. And they said you could put meshing in there. I thought the meshing didn't look quite as nice, so I used a nice foam seal. Looks good, looks finished. And so that way we could appease them by making sure that no critters could be coming into the house. Second is, while all my smoke detectors work just fine, there were not carbon monoxide detectors in all of my sleeping rooms. I had one each per floor, but the requirement is that you have one in each sleeping room, but easy enough. I picked up a 3-pack off of Amazon, and that was all good. Just plugged them right in the wall, and those suffice. Number 3 is you wanna make sure you have a fire extinguisher. First I was like, darn, I don't actually have one. And then when I was under my sink looking at that holes I needed to fill in, I found that I did have a fire extinguisher. And like elated, I was like, hey dude on phone, look, I have a fire extinguisher. And he said, well, how old is it? And I was like, oh, it's from 2009. He goes, that doesn't work. So Amazon sent me a new fire extinguisher and that was all taken care of. So they were nice enough. They let me know that I did not pass on these things, and they went ahead and rescheduled me for the following week, and I went ahead and picked the spot. And readily available, I had all of those items completed within 24 hours. And when they called me back to do my quick little pre-inspection or re-inspection to look through stuff, I passed with flying colors on the dot. So next I needed to figure out how much I actually wanted to list the property for. In my previous video, I had some ideas. I looked on the MLS, I looked on Zillow, Hotpads, Craigslist, Facebook. I tried to get as many data points as possible of what was out there. The professionals that do this more than me gave me certain numbers, but I wanted to make sure that I justified it to myself so I could feel good about the numbers, so if someone started questioning me, I could back it up with data and information and statistics. So I scoped out the internet to see how my competition looked and what we might need to do to find the right people or person. And additionally, what I've found is on a rental, what I've been told is you can actually aim for slightly on the higher end without a catastrophe of overpricing. I was deathly afraid of overpricing because doing that in the real estate market of selling can be very detrimental to long-term goals. But what I heard on the rental standpoint, you could back down those numbers and eventually find somebody, and it's less of an ordeal to make that happen. So I felt I could start with a slightly higher number. I didn't go all the way up, but I went sort of in the middle of where I thought I could be going. Next, I needed to get it ready. So we did all the normal stuff you need to do to prepare a house for sale. Except we weren't quite as strenuous about it. When you're listing a house for sale, there tends to be a lot of stuff you're doing, but we did the normal, like we cleared off our counters. We put away loose items into closets. We changed out burnt light bulbs and made everything generally quite tidy. And I started to do the pictures myself, like with my iPhone. I have it with me, but I thought they looked very average compared to what I'm used to. So I ended up pulling in a photography company that I've used for listings to snap some quick pics. And frankly, they did a marvelous job as usual. I feel like too often people think that a place will just sell because it's a place in DC and people want to be here. But the more eyes you get to fall in love with a place, the more people that you're going to have feet through the door. And the more feet through the door, the higher the chance you're going to get of hitting those loftier numbers that we're going after. So we want to make sure that everything looks as pristine and beautiful as possible. And I'm not saying you need to hire my folks. I'm sure that there's somebody on Craigslist or something that you can hire to come in for $100 to shoot some pictures. But using the right lighting and angles and lenses and everything, it can go a long way to making sure you can get that top dollar and getting more people through your door and making it happen even faster. Okay, so we have a BBL, we have pictures, we have price, we have a plan. Where did I advertise it? Well, I put it on the sites that I thought most people would be looking at for houses. So that was Trulia, Zillow, Hotpads, Facebook, Marketplace, and some of their affiliates. For like $40, Zillow posted it to a bunch of places and made suggestions about what I needed to do and made it pretty easy. Not a huge fan of their software tech in generally, and I think some of their data is often outdated, but it scratched the itch for what I needed in real time. And I put together one really kind of goofy and whimsical description to really get people excited about it. And we're live. We're ready to mingle. Let's do this thing. Yes. And it didn't take but 1 hour to get our first inquiry from a prospective tenant. And then a second, then a third. It became apparent that pretty quickly this is going to take a lot of time because I need to meet each one of these people at my house. And after awkwardly juggling the first handful of things, I elected to change my approach. I started setting off blocks of times that mimicked open houses that I'm used to and told people that they should come during these times and to message me to reserve a spot during those times. This was much more efficient because I couldn't be going across the city and back to let somebody in the house. And frankly, half the time someone scheduled an appointment, they didn't even show up. So that was kind of a nuisance as well because there's nothing to hold them really accountable to actually showing up. When they show up, you want to be there with all the general information. You know your price, what your utilities cost, how long the lease is going to be, what your security deposit is, whether you're going to allow pets, what the move-in details are, all of that stuff. You want to be polished and professional and ready to go with all the information they need because that's going to make them more comfortable about renting out your spot because it shows that you have your stuff together. If you use systems like Zillow, they do have some tenant screening options, so you can use those. I don't know how good they are in comparison to their peers. I was recommended to some other ones, and that's what I ended up using. But they do have an option, so if you're listing in that platform, you have it, you can run all that information. And there are plenty of services that do this for a fee, which does tend to get passed along to the applicant. So it's good to have that in line right away, because if you have someone interested and you want to scoop them up before they find a different place, you have that ready to go. The other thing you need to have ready is a lease. There are many online, but I would look through a handful of them to see what you like and what you don't like about them. You want to make sure that you are hitting all of the major points, and so when you guys all sign this lease, you are covered. There are different laws and regulations in the area. I'm not a legal expert. You should find someone that can look over your lease and make sure it's good, to make sure that you have your butt covered. And that's especially important because DC is very tenant friendly, which means if you have someone that won't pay or leave, it's much tougher to gain access back to your home, which means you'll be left paying the mortgage and not collecting any rent, which can be pretty difficult. Truthfully, this all became pretty cumbersome pretty quickly. And there have been multiple times that I thought to myself, man, do I really need to be doing this? Like, this is kind of awkward, kind of weird, out of my comfort zone. But I go back to my 3 bullet points at the beginning. Why was I excited about this? And while I haven't found a renter yet, as I've been recording this, we are hopeful to find someone soon. And if we don't, there's always still an option that we list our house in early fall and go from there. We just need to see what the market looks like and go from there. So, are you thinking about this process? Did I not scare you enough while you watched me ramble on during this whole thing of things going through my head? Well, if you'd rather not do this yourself and hire a professional, let me know. While it's not something that I do regularly, we have people that we partner with that can help you with this in case you want to talk with someone. So go ahead and shoot me a note and we can sync you up with them. And they'll do everything from helping you get your place ready, doing the pictures, finding the tenant, and then even managing it once they're in there so you don't have to do anything. Of course, it's always all for a fee. So that's going to be the balance of whether you want to do it yourself or have someone else do it, but it's going to cost you money. And this is an ongoing scenario. Again, I haven't found my tenant yet, and there's many things going on in the market right now. So make sure you subscribe so you're stayed up to date on the next things that's happening in this trajectory, because I don't know where this is going next, but hopefully it's finding a renter. But stay tuned. I'll let you know as I'm finding more things about it. And if you have more questions about anything DC and anything real estate, go ahead and reach out. I'm here to help. All right. Thanks again for stopping by another Coffee with Coleman. Peace.